Good evening. It is now 7:30 on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2026. Let's begin our town council meeting by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a moment, please, to think of all those serving in our military at home and abroad. Thank you. I ask now Clerk Semino, could we have a roll call to begin the meeting?
Here.
Here.
Councilor Clarity will not be Councilor Maglio. Here. Councilor Moran.
Here.
Councilor Quilty. Here. Councilor Reynolds.
Here.
Councilor Ringus.
Here.
Councilor Sterling.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any announcements from any of the council members? Does anybody want to take it? Councilor Reynolds, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to announce that, again, St. Francis Collaborative is holding a community meals tomorrow night, starting at 5:30. It is open to all residents, and we encourage your participation. The numbers have been growing, and we're very happy, and very happy to say as well that Councilor Barrica has joined the team, and she did a great job with our last December meal. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds.
There's no other, I just have to make, I'd like to make one comment. If I may.
Okay, I believe Councilor Quilty has an announcement? Okay.
I would just like to note that February is Black History Month.
Hit the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would just like to note that February is Black History Month. Black History Month is in February because its founder, Carter G. Woodson, chose the month to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln on February 12th and abolitionist Frederick Douglass on February 14th, building on existing Black community celebrations of these figures and their contributions to freedom.
Thank you, Councilor Quilty. Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take note of the fact that this past 1 week ago, we had a pretty bad storm. And as things usually go, when we have a storm, things get very disrupted. And I did receive a number of calls about some challenges that our citizens and residents had in the district. But I first want to say that I want to acknowledge the hard work and the effort that was put in by the DPW staff and the contractors. It was a very difficult storm to deal with. The duration was very challenging, over almost a 24-hour period, and the accumulations. However, that being said, in having conversations with the mayor and with the DPW director, they have told me that they would like to take a post-mortem look at the storm, its operations, look at their preparations, and that I felt very confident about. It was a very responsive action being taken by the administration to improve future snow removals, and I'm looking forward to hear the results of those conversations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds. If no one else on the council has announcements, I have a few that have been brought forward to me. I would first, we announced this at our last meeting, but we're announcing it again, that the Lunar New Year Festival will be celebrated on Sunday, February 15th, 2026, from 12 to 4 at Braintree High School. It's free admission. It's one of the best attended celebrations that we have in Braintree, and I would urge anyone that's interested, get there early because it gets very full very fast. There are community forum sessions for the master facilities planning process. Join for an update on facilities planning work and see what we've heard from community members so far, and ask any questions that you may have about the future of our school buildings. There is one tomorrow, Wednesday, February 4th, from 6:30 to 7:30 at Old South Middle. Friday, February 6th, from 12 to 1, there's a virtual Zoom link. And then on Wednesday, February 11th, from 6:30 to 7:30 at Braintree High School. Anyone who's interested, please feel free to attend either in person or on the 6th virtually. Finally, from the Braintree Veterans Services, there's an invitation to join for a coffee hour with Mayor Joyce, Senator Keenan, Senator Driscoll, and Representative Cusack for all veterans from February 24th, or on February 24th at 10 a.m. at 74 Pond Street on the second floor. It's an opportunity for veterans to ask their elected officials questions and air their concerns to them. All counselors are also invited to attend. Again, that's February 24th at 10 a.m. at 74 Pond Street on the second floor. Thank you. We have minutes to approve. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of January 20th, 2026?
So moved, President Moran.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. Moving on to old business. Proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, Section 135, 711, site plan review, or take up any action relative thereto. This is 25070. This is a public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing for order 25070?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, I will now refer to Councilor Ringus, Chair of the Committee on Ordinance and Rules for a recommendation on Order 25070, and I believe that there's been some alterations to the language as since it was submitted in the minutes, so we'll have a little bit of time for the explanation. Councilor Ringus, please.
Thank you, President Warren. The Committee on Ordinance and Rules did meet on January 20th. We were joined by Planning Director Maschek, who sort of presented some of this new language to us. Ultimately, the Committee of Ordinance and Rules did vote for unanimous favorable recommendation to the full council on Order 25070. I know Director Maschek is here today, and I'm sure at some point he'll be popping up to the podium to kind of take us through some of this. I think as the O&R subcommittee, not speaking for anyone else, we saw this as sort of just putting some things in place so that we can move forward. There was some semantic pieces of this. I know there has been some conversation between Council Baraka and some folks in terms of some new language, and I think after Director Maschek's sort of explanations, we can get into some of that new proposed language.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Ringus. Okay, Director Maschek, if you would take the podium, and then Councilor Baraka, I believe that would be appropriate at that time for you to discuss your proposed amendment. Thank you, Director.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. So tonight, the public hearing for the added language, which would add an element under the site plan review to, which really addresses any new and/or proposed use that would come under Section 40A, Section 3 of the under Mass General Law, Section 40A, Section 3, which is also known as the Dover Amendment. These are exempt uses, and so therefore, like similar communities such as Braintree, I see that Braintree should have something in our bylaws to catch proposals that would come in. So there is a review process, and so with this coming in, if someone came in to propose an addition to a school facility or a new preschool or a daycare, that there would be a public hearing process through the planning board process for site plan review. And this language was put forth, drafted by myself, and using Attorney Keller Murray as a sounding board to develop the draft language to address the comments that were made working with Councilor Baraka. Really, the new language which was passed around, which was highlighted in yellow, it just adds some clarity to the bylaw, right? Regarding the conversations that we had regarding the ADU. So as this the council remembers, I think it was back in about October, November, the council created and/or added a bylaw to address the ADUs. And so therefore, I think the original language that was proposed, there was a little bit of, I don't want to say confusion, but one could interpret municipal uses, and then at the end of the sentence, it just said comma ADUs. So therefore, in speaking with Attorney Murray, we added a period in a new sentence to address ADUs, and then to reflect that all proposed ADUs follow the bylaw that was adopted by this council back in October and November regarding ADUs. So therefore, it's clear and consistent, and refers to any ADUs would have to revert back to section 135,
Yeah, 135, 618.
618 of the zoning bylaws.
That's okay. Thank you. Council Baraka?
Thank you, Councilor, or President Moran and Director Matchak. Just to reiterate what the director said, the proposed change that was passed around this evening is really a clarification so that it doesn't appear as if the town of Braintree would be owning or operating accessory dwelling units, and also to ensure that all the work that this body did last year in getting 135-618, which is our accessory dwelling unit bylaw, that is also clearly codified under that component of the zoning code. So I would offer this change, and thank you to the director and to, in absentia, Attorney Murray for their assistance, just to add clarification so that it doesn't appear as if the town's going to be operating ADUs, accessory dwelling units.
Thank you, Councilor Baraka. Do any other councilors have questions of Director Matchett? Councilor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm going to be supporting this because currently under the Dover Amendment, the law is too broad and too lopsided. This applies specifically to religious structures and to schools. It kind of moderates the developer's ability to have a detrimental impact on abutters by implementing reasonable restrictions. So again, I will be supporting this as it's adding balance to the current law. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any others? You all set? Okay. Director Matchett, if you could just, I just want to reiterate, we're using some terms of art tonight that are familiar to members of the council, but may not be to the public. So the Dover Amendment basically applies to structures or uses that are exempted from local regulations except for certain types of local regulations, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So the Dover Amendment historically has been known to cover a piece of Mass General Law known as Section 40A, Chapter 48, Section 3. And that is to protect religious and educational institutions. And therefore, they do not have to follow local zoning code. And so churches, religious institutions, and educational facilities can really be placed anywhere, right, without regard of the local zoning. So with that essence, right, in identifying that in the bylaw, there's no certain call out that if one was proposed, what becomes the process. So here, this bylaw as proposed creates some guidelines that the proposed uses will have to file a site plan review. There'll be a public hearing through the planning board, abutters will be notified, and then the planning board can insert reasonable restrictions. And reasonable restrictions is the term that has been pulled out of case law for over the years. That is really that the question of the case law has kind of came to the consistency of reasonable restrictions, and that is kind of like the test almost for the review process. And so yes, we are adding some
Thank you.
basic oversight.
So what this proposed amendment to the bylaw does provides for a site plan review for circumstances where the proponent of the project is invoking the Dover Amendment, so that it allows for review of and the imposition and the potential imposition of reasonable regulations, which the Attorney General has identified recently in a memo that went out to all municipalities. And as you cited, these have all come from case law, things like bulk and height of structures, yard sizes, lot area, setbacks, open space, parking, and building coverage requirements. Those can all are all seen as reasonable restrictions as long as they're properly considered by a municipality in their regulatory process.
That is correct.
And so you're just guaranteeing that those factors will be, this bylaw basically, or this ordinance change, guarantees that those factors will be considered when a Dover Amendment is being invoked by a proponent.
That's correct.
All right. Yep. I think that's a very prudent response by the community. I appreciate your work on doing this, and I appreciate the work of the Ordinance and Rules Committee on bringing this forward, and Councilor Barrica on her efforts to improve upon it. Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none? Oh, Councilor, I'm sorry.
So I think this is a very important amendment to our site plan review. Having been a member, a longtime member of the Braintree Planning Board on 2 different occasions, I've had the opportunity to have discussions as a board in a public hearing with applicants who had invoked the Dover Amendment. And depending upon who the applicant is and what the use is, and what their intentions are to make changes, I'd have to first say that the Dover Amendment was necessary when it was initially implemented. There was somewhat, there was plenty of evidence that churches and school and university entities were somewhat discriminated against in their means of trying to expand their uses of their property, as well as perhaps look for opportunities to generate needed funds to keep their operations going. And this was a measure, I believe, from my historical research, that went too far initially. And this is a correction of that initial intent to protect the rights of those 2 types of entities. And I think it was really important that the President made point to talk about what exactly is the Dover Amendment, where does it apply here in the state, in our community. The site plan review itself is an extremely, extremely important process that enables, that ensures proper application and protection of both our zoning laws for the property owners who are intending to either build, develop, or change a use of some type on their own property, but at the same time be able to provide a level of protection for abutters in the community in general, in the vicinity. We talk a lot of times about harmony of uses in individual areas and introductions of perhaps modifications or changes in some way or shape to the areas in question, affected areas in question. This is a long overdue change that will protect not only the property owners, and it will even the playing field. Absolutely even the playing field for the community. It's important for us that these types of entities have the ability to grow, to expand as their needs expand, but at the same time in a responsible manner, that the key word that the director used, reasonable. Reasonable use. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for the town of Braintree to implement a very reasonable change to our site plan review. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds. If there are no further comments from the council, Is there anyone from the general public wishing to speak on Order 25070? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing for Order 25070?
Motion to close public hearing for Order 25070.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Now, I just want clarification. Since there has been a change offered by Councilor Baraka, would it be appropriate for her to offer the amendment, or is it as written?
Since it wasn't on the original submission, we should have that amendment read into the record.
Okay. Councilor Baraka, could you read your amendment into?
Thank you, President Moran. It would read 5, number 5, any new structure or alteration of an existing structure or change of use in any structure for an entity claiming exemption under MGL Chapter 40A, subsection 3, or Section 3, provided, however, that site plan review shall not be applicable to any municipally owned or operated preschool, elementary school, middle school, or high school. This is the new addition. Further, accessory dwelling units, ADU, shall be governed by Section 135-618 of the Braintree zoning bylaws.
Councilor Baraka has moved to amend the proposed ordinance. Is there a second to her amendment?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. On the amendment, all those in favor? Aye. That is unanimous. On the order as amended, is there a motion for Order 25070 as amended?
To accept the proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, Section 135-711, site plan review of multifamily apartment, business, and commercial developments with planning board recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you for your work on that, Councilor Ringus, Councilor Baraka, and all the members of the Ordinance and Rules Committee. We would now move to 26005, Mayor, FY 2026 Supplemental Appropriation Number 1, or take up any action relative thereto. This also is a public hearing. Is there a motion to open the public hearing for Order 26005?
Motion to open the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. I will now refer to Councilor Baraka, Chair of the Committee on Ways and Means, for recommendation on Order 26005.
Thank you very much, President Moran. The committee met earlier this evening. We had a very robust discussion on this. We are sending this to the full council with a unanimous favorable recommendation. I do just want to point out, and thank you to Vice Chair Reynolds for his assistance on this as well. One of the motions attached here too is distinct from the Tri-Town request, so I just want to bring that to everybody's attention. It is a transfer of funds simply, so regarding legal service fees. So all other motions do pertain to the Tri-Town water treatment plant operations.
Thank you, Councilor Baraka. Would any council member like to speak on Order 26005? I would ask for Director
President
Esmond.
Moran.
Oh, yep. You got to throw something at me because my peripheral vision is not working. Okay.
Pointed to me? Yeah. So you're going to, do you want them to present?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was going to let him talk, but I thought
Oh,
you
I'm
wanted to
sorry. My
talk too.
apologies.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm old, but I'm new.
Good evening, President Moran. Thank you to the members. Mike Esmond, I'm the Finance Director for the town. I'll be brief, and thank you to the members of the Ways and Means Committee for giving myself and several members of various departments a chance to outline these. Just as Chair Barrica identified, the bulk of the motions that are in front of you relate to the soon to be operational Tri-Town water treatment plant. And I'll touch base on those very quickly. It's important to note the motions here relate really just for fiscal 26. We have identified that as what we would call a stub year, where that will last over the duration of the time in fiscal 26 where the plant will become operational, and where the town of Braintree will essentially perform the operational services on behalf of the Tri-Town district. To be clear, when after the legislation that was adopted by the General Court was adopted, each of the three towns, Braintree, Holbrook, and Randolph, executed a joint powers agreement that identified addressed a number of issues, including the plant's operations, and clearly states in that agreement that the town of Braintree will be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the plant. And that is also inclusive, not just for the staffing, supplying sort of the things we think of when we think of operations, but also for the personnel management, human resources, finance, etc. So we have endeavored over the past many months, working with the district board, to identify a stub-year operations budget that would be apportioned for the district, but then apportioned to each of the three communities. And Braintree will be essentially performing as a contracted operator. We will have, for beginning in fiscal 27, a formal maintenance and operations agreement adopted between the Tri-Town District and the town of Braintree, which will memorialize some of the issues that we are continuing to work through right now. But these appropriations that are represented in the motions tonight in front of the council are important so that we have a funding structure in place for us to be able to begin to incur the costs we anticipate related to the operations of the plant, that we are able to track that using the town of Braintree's chart of accounts closely, and then use that information to then invoice back the three respective communities that make up the Tri-Town District, and ultimately have the structure in place that serves and corresponds to how the plant will be operated. It's really also important to note from the conversation we had with Ways and Means, what we're talking about tonight is really just for the operations of the plant itself. The water department for the town of Braintree consists of other activities that aren't just simply the plant. Particularly water, essentially the distribution, operating and maintaining the distribution system throughout the town. We have a meter reading division and other important functions that are performed by the water department. Those are not going to be affected really by this agreement. Those will continue, each town, Braintree included, will continue to perform its community-specific responsibilities related to those key water department responsibilities outside of the plant operation. So what we're really just talking about is the operations of the plant. In total, the appropriations that are in front of the committee related to the Tri-Town total $2.2 million. I just want to share a little bit of perspective on that for the council. We put this budget together sort of using the best information that we have available. I do expect these amounts will in turn ultimately be conservative, I think, because of the nature of us really putting together a first sort of pro forma budget. We've worked closely, when I say we, a team, Braintree specific, especially led by Lou Dutton, who's our water and sewer superintendent, folks from the DPW, myself, Christina O'Connell, who's not only the town's treasurer, but has been identified as the Tri-Town Water District treasurer, and a number of other folks. We have advised the communities of these. We've presented them to their staff and then to the Tri-Town District. The Tri-Town District Board adopted motions adopting the fiscal 26 and 27 budgets that are reflected here. And each community has been presented what their allocated percentage share will be. The town of Braintree will, in fiscal 26, bill for the 2 quarters of 26, bill back to communities for what are the actual costs as they are finally recorded following each quarter. And then beginning in fiscal 27, pursuant to the Joint Powers Agreement, we will then begin to bill each community, Braintree included, in advance for quarterly allocations of the budget. I really don't know that we will have a full appreciation of the operations, its costs, and other factors until we get through probably the first 18 months of the plant. I think there's a lot, if I could speak for Lou, there's a lot we'll learn. And I think we'll work to make sure we're reporting routinely back to the committee and town council on progress. And certainly during the budget, I'm sure we'll be able to have some additional perspective. But these appropriations will help us move forward, and they are timely in the sense that we expect the plants will become operational, and we are beginning to incur costs now as part of this stub here. The sixth motion that's in these, as Chair Barker noted, is unrelated to the Tri-Town. It is exactly that. It's appropriating or transferring funds from our insurance recovery fund to the legal services, to the legal department related to costs anticipated to be incurred in the near term related to litigation and ongoing related expenses of the town. Those funds have been deposited there from the results of other litigation matters and are available for the purposes of, via this appropriation, for the purposes of supporting and defraying those costs. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. President.
Thank you, Director Esmond. Are there any questions from the council? Counselor?
Try to wait.
Go ahead.
If anybody else wants. But anyways, so thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Director Esmond, for that explanation for the benefit of the public and all of the councilors here this evening. As you had stated, the Ways and Means Committee did ask a lot of questions, and we received all the clarification to those questions, and I appreciate that. I know there were a number of other committee members who were really trying to get their heads around the separation at first of the Tri-Town water plant operations and the individual communities' water and sewer departments, how they separate and how they will continue to act as such, the water and sewer operations, with no changes whatsoever. So thank you for clarifying that. The seeding of the money, I think, was a point that we had asked for a little bit more clarity on for a fuller understanding. And there were some concerns that were raised, and I think that those concerns were properly addressed through the language of the Tri-Town Agreement and the legislation as well. That any of the risks of Braintree, in essence, forwarding or fronting operating monies to begin the operations of the new Tri-Town plant. That money will be recouped. We were satisfied with the way in which the money that's presently being used that were accumulated through surcharges or through looking ahead and asking our water ratepayers to pay a little bit more money for us to get the operation up and running. There was the benefit you laid out about how the costs of paying for this new Tri-Town, the benefit of the fact that we took advantage of state loans that would be forgiven because of the regional nature of this initiative. One of the reasons was a regional nature. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm spelling out the benefits of this, and I just want to reiterate those benefits of what Braintree ratepayers are going to see as a result of this new plant coming online. And number one, I think, is the fact that we are going to have a thoroughly modern water processing plant, the latest technologies, the public safety, with all of the concerns we have around this country and the world, for that matter, around water safety, drinking water safety. I feel very good about that. There is also a cost, a savings that is built into this as well. The Braintree personnel who presently run the Braintree water and sewer plant that will be soon coming offline will continue in that role on behalf of the Tri-Town community in running the new plant. The savings, of course, will be that the cost of payroll will be paid and shared with 2 other communities, which in essence is going to be a credit on our expenditures. So again, all the way around, I'm very happy about this, and I know some of the other councils would probably have mentioned the very same, and I'm just going to shut up right now. And I just want to say thank you for all the effort you've put into this. You've made it clear, and if I could ask one request, and this might be better for Director Jacques, there is some question about the structure of how all of this will work. And as I had said in the meeting, I'm a better visual learner. And to see an org chart of how our personnel will continue to do their water and sewer basic operations, and how the personnel that ran the plant, how they are still part of our organization, but more or less under a different oversight. Hence, we pay part of those expenses for those people to do their jobs, but those expenses are shared amongst 3 communities, which is going to be a savings for all of us. So to see a chart that kind of designates where all 3 communities come together, and certainly where they're each responsible for their own community's water and sewer operation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Reynolds. Are there any other questions for the director? Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone from the general public that wishes to speak on this matter? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing for Order 26005.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Is there a motion for Order 26005?
Yes, President Moran.
When you're ready.
Okay, and I'm going to, we'll vote separately on each.
Correct.
Okay. So the first one is the Tri-Town District Administration. Motion that the sum of $110,250,000 be transferred from fiscal year 2025 Certified Water Sewer Fund retained earnings to the Tri-Town Treatment Plant District Administration.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Treatment Plant Management. Motion that the sum of $1,078,923,000 be transferred from fiscal year 2025 Certified Water Sewer Fund retained earnings to the Tri-Town Treatment Plant Management.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
3, treatment facilities. Motion that the sum of $431,500,000 be transferred from fiscal year 2025 Certified Water Sewer Fund retained earnings to the Tri-Town Treatment Plant treatment facilities.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Treatment operations. That the motion that the sum of $506,250,000 be transferred from fiscal year 2025 Certified Water Sewer Fund retained earnings to the Tri-Town Treatment Plant treatment operations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Reservoir operations. Motion that the sum of $95,500 be transferred from fiscal year 2025 Certified Water Sewer Fund retained earnings to the Tri-Town Treatment Plant reservoir operations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the last one?
And this one is Legal Department. Motion that the sum of $200,000 be transferred from the Insurance Recoveries Fund, Fund 3504, to the Legal Department Administration Program.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That is unanimous. Thank you, Councilor Baraka and members of the Ways and Means Committee for your hard work on this order. Thank you. I am going to take the next matter out of order because there is a very patient resident who is here to give us money. I never want to keep anyone waiting who is going to offer to give the town a gift of money. So if there is no objection, I would like to act on motion or on order 26007. We have a request for same-night action on this. This is to authorization to accept a donation from the festivals or trees or take up any action relative thereto. Does any counselor object to same-night action on order 26007? Thank you. I would ask Biz Inglis if she would like to come up and speak on order 26007.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. And it's my pleasure to be standing in front of you all again for the second year, just after our second year of the Festival of Trees. After the first year, we hoped that we could increase our tree number and our participation from town residents and businesses, and we did that greatly this year. Our tree numbers went up by 20%. We were able to get a lot more people involved, businesses involved. This year we had a first responder night, we had the children's night, we had senior day, and an adult night. I think one of the highlights of the night, of the week, was the first responder night. This year we had the fire station set up a coffee hour over there across the street in the fire truck bays. The fire department themselves did a lot of fundraising, which brought their building into light through the holiday season too. So without their efforts, we wouldn't have had their building lit up also. So we thank them. We also had our first adult night, which was a huge success. We ended up selling out. There were 200 tickets sold. And we plan to do that again next year. Every year I say it's going to be better than last year, but I don't really know how we're going to keep that going, because every year we're amazed by the turnout, by the participation, by the generosity of the town, and we just hope to be able to keep doing and putting back into the community like we have. So thank you, the town of Braintree, and we're on to 2026. Do you guys have any questions?
Does any counselors wish to ask any questions? Councilor Baraka.
Thank you, President Moran. I just want to offer thanks to you, Biz, and your team who work tirelessly. It is an awesome...
Yeah, this isn't a one-person thing. There's a lot of people behind it.
Yeah, an awesome community event, and I know it's going to be so for decades to come, and you had a vision, remarkably brought it to light, and I think last year it was like a couple months, and this year with more time, I mean, it's been unbelievable, great add to the community, and I can only imagine the amount of effort and passion it takes. So thank you, and please pass along the gratitude to your board and all of your volunteers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to move my head slowly so I don't miss it on Councilor Reynolds.
I just want to say thank you. It's tremendous what you've done for the community spirit. It really is something else. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have a lot of stuff in store for this year, so we hope that we can, better the lives of Braintree residents. Thank you.
Wait, we're not done with you yet.
Okay, sorry.
I also want to say thank you, and I think that what you have done is you've shown that an example of when someone sees something that there's a gap, that there's a need, and there are many ways to go about trying to fill that or address it. Some ways are to just keep pointing at the gap other ways are to actually do something about it. And I appreciate all of the energy and the excitement and everything that you've done to create this as an ongoing, feel-good, community-building support to so many different parts of the town that need it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dave, anyone? Okay. Biz, you've been connected to a lot of things that have brought Braintree together and unified. You know, whether it's your kid in Williamsport and you cheering them on, or this event, you find a way to bring us together. And your efforts are really appreciated in a time where there's a lot of discord. You're finding a way to bring us together. This is, I remember when you first brought this up, I didn't have the vision you had, and now I see what you were talking about. It's an amazing event. It offsets costs that allows us to celebrate the holidays better than we would otherwise. Thank you so much for your efforts, and thanks for being patient this evening.
Thank you.
With that, is there a motion on Order 26007?
There will be, yes.
Page 6.
Motion that the town of Braintree be and hereby is authorized in accordance with Section 53A of Chapter 44 of the Mass General Laws to accept the following gift upon the conditions attached and herein set forth. Donor, Festival of Trees, gift $12,000, purpose, town Christmas lights.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you again, Biz. Okay, if we go back to our agenda order, we would move to order number 00326, Council President FY27 Town Council budget, or take up any action relative thereto. Is there a motion to take item 00326 off the table?
So moved, President Moran.
Motion is made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we can now address item 00326. I received comments from Councilor Baraka suggesting amendments to the proposal. Councilor Baraka, I'd give you the floor now to elaborate on those.
Thank you very much, President Moran, and I want to echo my comments from the last council meeting. I greatly appreciate you opening this up for discussion and for the sake of transparency. I don't know that this has been done before, so I really appreciate the opportunity. And before I walk through my suggestions, and very open to, discussion by all means, that was the point of this, I want to, I guess, President Moore, you could confirm that, and for residents watching, the council actually cannot add any dollars to the budget. So this is going to be submitted to the mayor's office for consideration. We are going to ask for what we want. However, there is no guarantee that it will come back to us with the total dollar amount that we're requesting. Do I have that right?
That's correct. This is just, we are just formulating our request to the mayor for consideration in her proposed budget. And what comes from that request is going to be left to her. But I just wanted the council to be able to discuss in public what we think we should be requesting in our budget.
Thank you very much, President Moran. So again, based on our conversation at the last council meeting, I've made 3 suggestions. One is to add $30,000 to the consultant line. This had been funded in years past. I went back and looked at other budgets going back to 2017, and it was in and around between 20 to 40,000, depending on the year. It was completely cut in 2023, given the dire straits of our fiscal situation. However, I would propose to add this back in, as the council does not have access to our own legal counsel or to any other consultants. All of our requests have to be routed through the mayor's office, which adds a lot of additional time for us to do our work and pursue things on behalf of our constituents and residents. So that was the first one. Would you like me to go one by one?
Yes.
Okay. The second item, and I want to thank the clerk of the council for bringing this to our attention, was to technology. I had proposed $5,500, which was a rough estimate for new iPads for the council. I see that was amended down to $2,500, which is about 2 iPads, and I think I definitely appreciate that. Why is this important? It might feel frivolous to have iPads. However, it's important for 2 reasons. The first reason is that counselors and people who are contemplating running for council should not have to rely on their own personal devices to do the business they were elected to do. A person who desires to join the council may not have the means to have their own laptop and their own working device, and we should be providing that as a community so that the council can do the business of residents. The second thing is simply to save paper, right? That is another expense, and goes into the waste stream. So there's 2 important reasons for that, and we should have technology that is reliable and working. And then the third item, and President Moran, you had brought this up, and again, thank you, was for the reserve account, which again, to remind folks, is not for the council to use at its discretion, but rather to have an account for unforeseen expenses that the mayor would have to ask for as an appropriation. I think the original proposal for that was $300,000. I just thought $100,000 seemed more reasonable as we try to start to bring back up our reserves. So those were my 3 items, and appreciate having a conversation and consideration.
Thank you, and Councilor Baraka, and as you see in tonight's materials, I've adopted those suggestions and put them in the proposal that I'm putting forward tonight. Are there any other councilors who wish to comment on this proposed budget? Vice President Maglio.
Thank you. I have a question. So is the consultant line just for legal?
No. It's a consultant line. It could be used for any consultant that we could use. Councilor Baraka is pointing out circumstances that have in the past delayed work on ordinances. It's probably not as much in the last 2 years as we've seen in prior years, where it was a dilatory tactic, one would say, to stall action by the council. And one of those circumstances was legal work. But there are other consultants that we could use in environmental situations, and in accounting, auditing, episodic situations that we may use. So,
Excellent. Thank you.
yeah. Councilor Ringus.
Thank you, President Moran. I would agree with, well, first off, thank you to President Moran for sort of bringing this forward and having sort of a public discourse on it, because I think Councilor Baraka is right. We haven't done it in this way in the past, and I think it's important that as every department is putting their budgets together, and they're going to go through that budget process, we see it, I think, most publicly in the way that the school committee does it, because it is sort of done through the school committee and then ultimately before the council. But per the charter, each department right now is currently putting together their budgets, and those will ultimately get submitted to the mayor's office for review, which will then be formulated under sort of one, large sum of money that is going to fund the town going forward in our next fiscal year. Again, per the charter, we don't get to determine what that will be. We are, like any other department, are going to make recommendations for our budget, and there have been things, as we had, some tough years that were cut, and I think, as Councilor Baraka sort of eloquently put, some of these are very important, and I think if we have the ability to start to restore some of these, we should take that opportunity. I think Clerk Semino and Vice President Maglio talked last meeting about technology, and I think it is important. We have a couple new councilors I knew who had I think, some difficulties getting onto their emails and so, some of the iPads. I know my iPad is the same iPad I had when I got elected in 2018, and most of the time we are sort of updating, we're updating things a lot faster in our own homes. So I think at least, yes, it would have been in a perfect world to sort of request 5,500 for all 9 of us to have them. I think 2,500 to get at least 2 each year, and every term to refurbish those is important. It sort of gets us on the path to sort of resetting where we need to be. And again, like every department, we're not going to get everything we want, and I think this is a nice step forward. In terms of the consultant or which legal is obviously one of them. I think it is important, and I think Councilor Moran touched on part of that. I think you touched on part of that as sort of the chair of Ordinance and Rules for so many years. I always like to ensure that we have some sort of legal sort of opinion on any ordinance that we are proposing and ultimately going to refer to the council for voting. And in years past, that has been a process that has been slowed, and there have been ordinances that could have moved a lot faster had we had that. I think, as noted in sort of these comments from Councilor Barrica, I always use this sort of term of art, I guess, that we have to imagine everyone as faceless people. It's not going to be the same 9 councils, it's not going to be the same mayor, it's not going to be the same town solicitor in any sort of position. And I think it's important that when you're making these decisions, you look at it as those faceless people. And I think we could ultimately, at some point, be in a position where we need legal advice. And I think that having our own fund to do that is important. It's not a reflection on anyone, but oftentimes a town solicitor, and we have someone sitting here who served as a town solicitor, the town solicitor or a chief of staff becomes an extension of the mayor in some respects. They are part of the executive branch. And we are, and I think people forget that sometimes, we are our own branch. We are the legislative branch of the town. And it's important for us to have the ability to seek outside help, again, on a number of things if we needed it. It would be great to have a number higher than 30,000, but I think restoring it to an amount that works is important. The reserve fund, which was cut a number of years ago, again, thank you to President Moran for bringing this piece up and trying to sort of get this going again. It's important, and I think we could hammer home just a couple of years ago when we had to sort of go out to bid and bond out basically the cost of I believe it was a cruiser that got damaged. This allows us the opportunity to sort of not have to go out. This puts us in a position, you look at other communities that use these reserve funds, it puts us in a position where we look much more fiscally responsible, where we're not having to, if you look compared to your household budget, not having to go to your credit card to have some money on hand so that we can address things that come up. A lack of better words, sort of a rainy day fund. It's not hitting free cash. We're not bonding it out. I think it makes us look, when it comes down to bond ratings, I think this shows them that we are in a position where we're preparing, and I think that puts us in a much better position when we're going out to get those bond ratings adjusted. I think we did propose 300,000 in the original one. I don't necessarily think the mayor's office might not be open to that, but I think at least getting 100,000. I think it is important to ask for 6 figures. I think for some of the expenses we might see, I think a 6-figure amount would be warranted, and so I would support all of these recommendations. And again, thank you to Councilor Barrica for her digging into this, and thank you for Councilor Moran for putting it out on the table for all of us.
Thank you for those comments, Councilor Arangues. Are there any other comments? Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would agree with the previous speakers, plural, and their comments, and I thank you for your time and your comments of clarity and endorsement of these figures. I have just 2 comments. One, just to point out, the reserve funding is not something that is going to come out of the budget. I think it's a very, I believe it really was a great idea to look at money that's sitting in our overlay account that historically has not been used or needed. We build it up, and I think then thank you, Mr. President, for working with our town auditor to give a little bit of a historical perspective on that overlay balance, how it's been used, how much on an average basis tax abatements have actually been debited from that account on an annual basis, and really illustrating a pretty significant surplus in that account that's not doing anything for us. And I believe Councilor Ringus may have pointed out and alluded to the fact that it's a really creative way for us to be able to put aside reserve funds, which is a very important thing, and with many examples of why, but also more importantly that it's not coming out of our operating budget, which is a big plus, and two, the benefit of us having this flexibility that we don't have to go to free cash for an unexpected expense, which again is directly goes directly to the previous comment made by the councilor, that has a direct reflection on our bond rating and our ability to show our financial strength and flexibility. Very important for us in our lending rates, et cetera. My only other comment is really a question, and I just was asking, I'm not sure if it would be for you, Mr. President, or perhaps for the clerk of the council, is just to understand the difference in the notations made for the line item of auditor fee at $57,000 and the town auditor for the CLA. I understand the CLA is for those services, but the town auditor fee, if you could just help a little bit on that.
Sure. The auditor fee, there are two auditor fees that are listed here. One is for the council's audit function that is performed through our contracting out with CLA, and that is for $62,500. That's leveled. The other audit that is included in here is the audit of the external audit that is required by statute for every municipality to have performed. That is, it used to be done by Powers and Sullivan. They're now CBIZ, at least that's their name this month. And their job is to perform the statutory function of looking at all town departments and assuring that we are complying with the standards of government accounting. So that's what the 57,000 is referring to.
Thank you for answering that thoroughly.
Are there any other questions from the council? I would just, for the public's benefit, I just want to go through what is incorporated in the town council budget and where we would be asking for increases in comparison to last year. Incorporated in there is an administrative clerical line for $89,606. There's no increase in that. There could be an increase if there's a cost of living adjustment that is made for employees that are not covered by collective bargaining agreements. That would come out of another funding source other than this budget. There's the $47,500 for counselor stipends. There's no change in that. The auditor fee that was mentioned for the outside audit required by statute, that is funded at $57,000 or proposed at $57,000. No change in that amount. The consultant line is going from 0 to $30,000. We are proposing in that line. Advertising for legal ads is at $10,000. It was previously at $10,000 as well. Technology had been zero funded. We are proposing increasing the amount to $2,500. Postage was cut to zero. We are asking for $100. Printing, it was $350 in FY26. We are asking for $300. Office supplies was $1,200 last year. We're asking for $1,500. Council meetings was $1,800. We were asking for $2,000. Mileage, we are not funding it. Dues, memberships, and subscriptions, we are increasing it from $3,000 to $3,500 so that we can cover the cost of one MMA conference per counselor per year. The reserve fund, which had been zero funded since FY23, we were asking to restore it to $100,000. Again, that is an amount that, or a fund that would be only accessed at the mayor's initiative for emergent or unforeseen expenses. And finally, for the town auditor, which in accordance with the town charter falls under the council's purview, we are asking to level fund that at $62,500. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to adopt the proposed budget.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, it's unanimous. Okay, we already we took the money and ran. Is there a motion to remove all, or to move all remaining items under new business to their respective committees?
Motion to refer all new business to their respective
Is
committees.
there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Prior to adjourning, I want to state that our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. I would thank BCAM for televising this and the efforts of Bill Needham and Jerry Comack. I was remiss in not announcing tonight that because of a far more popular basketball game than we are not on YouTube tonight, but the recording will be on later. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Good night.